Hello everybody, Steven here with Cardboard Coalition, and today I figured I'd bring you a how to play of Sagrada. Now I know this is an older game, it's still a loved game, so I figured I'd get this out here. This is from Floodgate Games. It's for 1 to 4 players, takes 30 to 45 minutes, and it's for ages 10 plus. Now, as I've said before, it's kind of just chronicling, keeping a setup of games that I have, so I do these how to plays. So hopefully you guys enjoy this. I've played the game a couple times. I'm pretty sure I got the setup and everything down, so let's go ahead and jump into the setup first. The first thing I'm going to say is I think it is better to do the player game setup. I was going to say player board, the game setup, before you do the individual player setup. But in the rules, it shows you the individual players, then the main. But let's go ahead and jump through this really quick. So we're going with the game setup itself. So first you put down the round tracker, middle of the board, so everybody can see it, middle of the play area so everybody can see it. Next, you're gonna wanna go ahead and shuffle the tool cards. These are the backs, and you select 3, and you go ahead and put them out. Those give you kind of special abilities that you can do throughout the game. Then after that, you wanna go ahead and take the public objectives, which these are the backs, they have the blue die in it, the public objectives, shuffle them, grab 3, put 3 out on the board. Now these are objectives that everybody can achieve for points, and we'll go over that here in a little bit. Once that's done, then I would say go ahead and do the player setup. So for the player setup, you go ahead and take the cards that have the gray die in the back. These are private objectives. These are for no one else to see. You go ahead and pass one out to each person, and what it will give you is a color and a, not a numerator. Well, what it's saying is that how many of these colors you have, you get a point for each one, but it's private, so no one knows what color they're vying for. All right, once you go ahead and do that, you want to go ahead and give each player a player board, right? All these ones are kind of just set up, and these ones, this one over here will kind of go through the whole motion. So you give each person a player board and a window board, and then you give them 2 of these window patterns, right? Which actually gives them 4 options because they're front and back, right? And so each person is going to pick which one they want. And one of the things to think about while you're picking is this is the difficulty across the bottom, these little circles, and it's how many favor tokens that you'll get. These are little favor tokens based on what you pick. So the players go through it. It goes from 3 all the way up to 6. I believe these are both 5s, but it'll go up to 6 difficulty. So they look, they decide what they want. They might want to look at their card and see lots of greens. I'm not getting a whole bunch of options here, so we'll pick this one. We'll go with easy. And then everybody picks one, puts the other one back in their bag. Once you go ahead and pick this one, you go ahead and take it. And you want to remember how many you have down here. So we're going to go this side, and you slide it in. There's a little opening. You slide it in your little player board, and that's set. Once you have that done, the next thing that you do is you go ahead and you pass out the favor tokens. As I said, everyone else is kind of already set up, but this person had picked the 3 difficulties, so they only get 3 favor tokens. They take those 3 favor tokens and they set them down by their board. I mean, you can set them anywhere. We're obviously set up for a 4-player. I just thought it looked kind of nice. It's not very even. I guess I should have made the corners point. All right, anyways, so once that's done, there's one thing I forgot to do. I mean, you could start this by setting up the players and then going the other way, but you go ahead and you take the round or the markers, the player markers. So if you see the die in the middle of the player board, they'll have a marker that matches it, and you go ahead and put all those up by the round tracker. All right, then the last thing, we could have done this in game for the game setup thing, is you go ahead and you take all the dice and you put them in the bag. So I actually store it with all the dice in the bag because I think it's a good way to hold all the dice. I don't need an extra plastic bag. You go ahead and you take this bag and you give it to the first player. The first player in the game, you could just pick. They tell you could just pick. Or what you could do is whoever is the last person to see a cathedral, right? And playing the game with people that aren't necessarily Christian or even European, I have said that to have gone, last person to have gone to a holy place, to see a cathedral or a holy place. You have mosques and temples and all that kind of stuff. So let's go ahead and just say green right here was the last one to go to a cathedral or see a holy place, right? And we go ahead and give them the bag. And then you're set up, you're ready to play the game. So what you're doing in this game is you are artisans, and you've been commissioned to make the prettiest stained glass window, right? And that's what this represents down here, is making the stained glass window. So how you become the favorite artist is to garner the most points. We'll talk about how you get points at the end, but briefly you get them from your private objectives, and you get them from these public objectives, and then minus any empty spaces. And like I said, we'll go over all that in the end. All right, so the first player, what they end up doing is they go ahead and they grab dice. You do double the number of players. So right now we have 4 players. We want 8 dice plus 1. So you want to do this randomly. So what I end up doing is grabbing it like that, because I'm not really good at counting small little dice, just shoving my hand in the bag, and then I just drop them till I have 9, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. See, I still had a die in my hand, and being the first player, I didn't pick which dice I wanted out to be fair and everything. So I just kind of drop them out of my hand. Once the first player has all those out, you give the dice a good shake, and you roll them out on the board. So all the dice are out. These are all the dice that you can select from. So starting with the first player and going clockwise, everyone takes a turn. Now I'm going to do this really fast, so don't criticize me on not doing the best turns. But let's say they have a yellow there, so they're going to pick yellow. Now, for the first round, how you have to place dice is it has to go along the edge, either matching the colors. White is any color. Matching the numbers. So you see you have numbers in here. You can do any color, but it has to be that number. And then, like I said, white, it was open, but you have to go on the outside. So 1 is going to go ahead and go here. We'll zoom around. The second player is going to grab this green. We'll keep going around. Like I said, don't pick on me for my choices. I'm just trying to play this really fast. They're going to go ahead and place a yellow. Come all the way over here. They are going to take this 1, because there's a 1 there, and they're going to place the 1. Now, once you get to the last player, then you kind of flip back around. So the last player picks a die. They get to go again. They get to pick another die. Now, this is where placement kind of gets involved. So when you go to place the next die, you have to place it next to, orthogonally or diagonally, next to a die that's already on your board. So right now, for player 4, they can put any color, or a 2, right? Those are their options. So they see that there's this 2 yellow, but the next thing is you can't have matching colors next to each other, and you can't have matching numbers. And the thing is, if they pick this yellow and they set it right here, they know that this is a yellow spot. They have to put a yellow die, and they're not going to be able to. So they might not pick that yellow. They might go ahead and grab a blue. And like I said, just for speed, we'll do it really fast. We'll put the blue right there. We could have put the blue here or there. We're just going to go ahead and pick there. And then it goes back around, and players go ahead and pick die. So in this case, you have this player, let's say they're going to go with a 3, and they could, a green 3, they could put any color there. Then you go back to player 2, they're going to pick a die. They can be really mean right here and mess with this player, or they could be nice. So they're just going to pick this 5. They're going to put it right there, because they can put any color right there, any number. This one they'd have to put a 2. This one they could put any color in a number. And this one they would have to put a 1. But they wouldn't want to put this yellow here, because it's yellow 5, but they would never be able to place any 5 right there because you can't have numbers next to each other orthogonally. You can have numbers, this could be, if this was a 5, this could be a 5, but you can't put them next to each other orthogonally. So they're going to go ahead and choose to go, oh, they can't do that. Good call, whoever saw that really quick. So they're going to take this 2, and they're going to put it, they can't put it right there now. But then they would block that, so they don't want to do that. They put it here, they're clear, green, anything, so they go ahead and place. And that's back to the last player. Everyone was really nice. They left them 1 color. It's a 1, but they're still messed up. Can they do a 5? They can't because their first die is yellow. So what they're going to have to do is just pass. So that is one thing that you can do on your turn is you can place die. The other thing that you can do on your turn is you can decide to use one of these tools. The first time a tool is used, it costs 1 favor. I want to make sure I'm saying they're favors, right? They're favors, favor tokens. I keep wanting to call them flavor tokens. 1 favor token. Anytime after that someone wants to use this card, they have to spend 2 favor tokens. And favor tokens are worth points at the end, so you might not want to use all your favor tokens. But they can do it, and there's different things. This one is reroll the dice in the dice pool. This may only be used on your second turn. So let's say they're like, I need to do that. I can't place any of these dice. Let's roll. They end up getting a green 6. They say rock and roll. They can put it right here. So they can draft dice. You can choose to use tools. Remember, the first person to use that tool only has to put 1. Every time after that it's used, it has to be 2 favors. Or they can pass. They can completely pass. So if we go back to the predicament we were before, if they hadn't used this, they don't want to spend the favor, they can go, I pass. They can choose not to pick a die or use a tool. So on your turn, draft a die, use a tool, or pass. Once it's gone around and back to the first player, that's the end of the first round. You take the dice and you put them on the first round marker, and then you pass the bag. This represents whoever's the first player to the next player. And you go ahead and pass the bag on, and then you go through all those steps over again. You keep doing that until you get all the way to the end of round 10, and then you score. Now, one thing I will say, they show you to stack dice like that. I found sometimes 3 people will pass, and as you're trying to put 2 people will pass, leaving 3 dice, and you're trying to put other dice down, you end up smacking them. So I just kind of stack them like this, so you can put the other dice down easily. All right. You keep playing until you get all the way to 10. There's enough dice in here to roll 10 times for 4 people. So there you go. So once you do that, once it gets all the way done, let's just say everyone's done. I know we're not. Say we're all the way at 10. Then you go ahead and score. So how you score is pretty simple. The order that you score in is your public objective cards. So these are your public ones. You have things like sets of 1 of each color anywhere. So as long as you have sets, so you'd have to have that whole set, you'll get 4 points. This one is sets of 1 of each value. This is the same as this one, but this is value. You'll get 5 points for every set that you have. What is this one? Sets of 5 and 6 value anywhere. So this is just 5s and 6s. Any sets of 5s and 6s. So how you track your points, so let's go ahead and we can get rid of these dice. You flip this over. You have, let's do it the right way. You have a little thing to track your points. You have your little tokens as I drop them. And once you hit 50, you can definitely go over 50. You just flip this over. You guys can see there's a 50 side, and you just start going from there, 51, 52, 53, so on and so forth. So you have your public objectives, then you have your private objectives, so everybody would flip over and see, and these are the colored dice. So you would count how many green dice you have, you get that many points, or purple, or red, or yellow, then you get that many points. Once you've done all that, there's the favor tokens. Favor tokens are all worth 1 point. So if this was the end case, there'd be much more dice on these. But if this was the end, they would have 3 more points. They would have 5 more points. They would have 6 more points. They would have 3 more points, right? Then after that, you go ahead and you see how many empty spaces. And like I said, we obviously didn't play through, but you count any empty spaces anywhere where there's not a die, that's -1 point. So once you do public objectives, private objectives, favor points, then you go ahead and subtract for any open windows. Then you go ahead and subtract points for any open dice, right, in the window. All right, so with all that done, so if you have ties, you break the ties by most private objective points. And then it's most favor tokens left over. So if there's a tie, you would look at who has the most of their private objectives. Then you would see who has the most favor tokens. If there's still a tie, it's that share a tie. Whoever is still tied the whole way wins. Now, there's one thing left, and this is actually kind of smart how they do it. This might be the first game that I've seen them do it. If you see that someone's placed a die wrong, and it's later, like your turn's in, what ends up happening is they have to take a die away from their board one by one until their pattern is set up how it's supposed to be set up. So that might mean at the end that they're missing some dice, but that's how they deal with placement. So if I had to put a 1 here or a yellow and no one noticed and we went, and let's say we're at, round 5 and someone's like, oh wait, you have a yellow next to a yellow. I have to slowly start taking dice away. I get to choose which die. I could even take this one away. I get to choose which die I take away until I meet all of the regulations for placing dice, numbers and colors and things like that. And that is how you play Sagrada from Floodgate Games, right? I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm Steven with Cardboard Coalition. Help us grow the coalition by liking, commenting, subscribing, hit the bell notification, all those kind of things. Comment, ask questions. I already said commenting, but we like to respond to questions. It's fun. All right, I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.